Hello, it's Claudia from Create with Claudia. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today we're doing episode number 8 of the Working Our Scraps Off YouTube series that I started earlier this year. It's a little something spooky because it is Halloween. Actually, Halloween is about in like 5 days when I'm taping this, so I sort of waited till the last minute. We were on vacation last week, so I didn't have a chance to do this video, excuse me. So it is going to be a little bit spooky, but not too spooky. In fact, it's just a very easy quick little make. It's for the wall. It measures about 6.5 by 15.5 inches when finished. So it's not really a placemat or anything. It's just sort of something fun for the wall. So we're going to get started. For this project, I'm using black scraps, orange scraps, and green scraps. But of course, as always, any fun Halloween combo would do. And once you see the design, you'll see what I mean. Working Our Scraps Off is a series I started about 8 months ago. Every month I do a fun little free pattern for Scrappy using up our scrap fabrics. I know you and I, if you're a quilter, which most of you probably are if you're watching this, have lots of scraps, as I do. So I'm trying to get rid of them. It's really not working. It's not working that well. I still have a bunch of scraps and I keep making bigger quilts, which adds to my pile. But I do try to use them because I hate wasting all those beautiful bits of fabric. So I do have a Facebook group. It's over there. The link is in my description, as well as all of the other projects we've done. We have a nice group, about 400 people now, so it's growing every month. I'd also love it if you'd hit that subscribe button. I always love new subscribers, and that way you won't miss an episode of Working Our Scraps Off and all of the other projects that I do. So thank you so much for stopping by, and enjoy the video. Okay, like I said, we're making just a small little wall hanging table topper type thing, just a fun little thing. It's actually eyeballs, spooky eyeballs. So what you're going to need for that is you're going to need the following pieces of fabric. For the background, I'm going to do the background first, and in my case I used black. I have you saw it a minute ago, I have a black bin, excuse me, I have a bin of black fabric that's just overflowing. So I have plenty of black scraps, and I use solid, you don't have to. But what you're going to need is you're going to need 2 strips cut 1.5 inches by 15.5 inches. So 2 strips. This again, we're doing the background fabric first. So 2 of those strips. 3 strips cut 1.5 inches by 4.5 inches. There are those. And then you're going to need 4 squares of the background fabric. We're going to make some half square triangles. 4 squares cut 3.25 inches. And you'll need 4 of those. I'm just showing you one. I cheated and I made the half square triangles beforehand, but I will show you how to make them if you don't know how to make them. Now, for the center, the pupil of the eyeball, you need 2 strips, and I use this bright orange. You need 2 strips cut 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches. So there's my 2 strips of that. And then for the outside of the eyeball, or I guess, I'm not sure what that is actually. Anyway, part of the eyeball, I use this bright, sort of really bright lime chartreuse green. And for that, you need 4 squares cut 3.25 inches. And that is it for the top. Now you also want binding, and as luck would have it, I actually had pre-cut and pre-folded and pre-ready sewn binding in black. So that's perfect. That's what I keep all my binding to in my scrap bins, because you never know when a little piece like that's going to come in handy. You're also going to need batting, and I cut mine a couple inches bigger on all sides. That way when I make my top and I quilt it, it has some wiggle room. So I'd say about, I actually cut this a little bit really big. It's about 18 inches long by about 8.5 inches wide. It's a leftover piece that I had from something. And last but not least is you need the backing. And again, I cut it bigger. I think I cut this like 19 inches by, let's see real quick, I'll just measure, just eyeball it here. Yeah, by about 12 inches. So this is really big, the fabric. And luck would have it, I also had this fun skeleton fabric that I had got, that I purchased recently at a Salvation Army fabric sale. I don't know if you saw my video on my fabric haul. I got over 60 yards of fabric for hardly any money, and just beautiful pieces of fabric. But they had some skeletons in there, so that's what I'm using for my back. But we don't need that right now, so I'm going to set that aside, and then I'm going to show you how we do the half square triangle. Alrighty, so here's my half square triangle that, well, I'm going to show you how to make the half square triangle, excuse me. You're going to need all of those squares that were 3 1/4 inches. And in this case, what you're going to do on the 4 squares of the lighter fabric, depending on what background you're using, you're going to draw a diagonal line on the back. Make sure it's the back. This is a batik, so it's sort of easy. I can do it on either side. And you're going to want to use, I don't normally use a pencil, but because of the video, I like you to be able to see it. So I try to make it nice and dark for you. Hopefully you can see that. And you're going to do that on all 4 of those the squares. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pair those up. You're going to pair the background square, in my case the black, and you're going to put them right sides together. And this is really easy. It's a 2 at a time method I really like. There is a lot of, not a lot, there's a little bit of waste, but I really like this. It gives me a lot of wiggle room. I have issues with my right hand, so I like to have some wiggle room when I'm cutting, so I like this method. But anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to sew a 1/4 inch down each side of that line. So just, you have that line you drew, you're not going to sew on the line, you're going to sew a 1/4 inch along each side of that line. And I'm going to go do that really quickly. Alrighty, so here you can see, hopefully, well, it's kind of hard, the light's a little bright. Here we go, I'm going to show you on the black side, excuse me. You can see, just imagine that there's a line drawn in the center, and there's my 2 seams on each side, a 1/4 inch seam on each side of that drawn line. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler, and I think it's easier to see on this side. That orange is, or that, excuse me, that yellow green is really bright. What you're going to do then is, well, you're going to take your ruler and line it up on the line that you drew. So in this case, you want to put that ruler right on that line that you drew, and take your rotary cutter and just cut it in half. Make sure you cover that back up. Those things are dangerous. I have gotten cut in the past. And now you have 2 half square triangles. And you're going to take those over and you're going to press them. And I'm going to press, in this case, to the dark because of that black. It would really show up behind that white. So when I'm going to press these really quickly, and then we just trim them down, and then they're ready to go. Alrighty, so here they are, nice and pressed, and they're ready to trim down. And this is where you want to trim them down to 2 1/2 inches square. So you're going to take this ruler, and you definitely want to use one that has this nice diagonal line. I love these square quilting rulers with that diagonal line, because the first thing you're going to do is line that diagonal line up with that seam, which is nice and easy to see with the black and the yellow, that nice contrast. And you're going to give yourself, just trim off one edge as close as you want, because this is going to be your starting point corner once this is trimmed, but you want to even off one side, making sure you have enough room on this side. Okay, and of course that didn't work. So let's see. I think I need a new blade. Let me try that. Let's see. Just get little. This won't be perfect. There you go. Watch your fingers when you do that. I don't normally do that, but and normally if I did, I would do a second pass on it. So anyway, so there's your corner, your nice sharp corner. That's going to be your starting point, and where you're going to put that 2 1/2 inch measurement. So you're going to find the 2 1/2 inch where it meets on that diagonal line. So here's 2 1/2 inches here, 2 1/2 inches here. And you're going to put that right on that corner that we just cut. And let's see, make sure you can see it. And then we're just going to trim off the other side. Hold it down. So you want to line up this line, and that diagonal line. And once that's all lined up, you're going to cut again. And let's hope this time it works. Yes, whew. All right, so there you go. There's your 2 1/2 inch half square triangle, and you need 8 of those. And that, with those the fabric measurements, so the fabric needs I gave you earlier, you'll get those 8 half square triangles. Now, like I said also before, I cheated a little bit and I already made them, so that way it would save a little bit of time. All right, so now we're ready to sew this together. This little topper, I'm not sure what to call it. It's like just a fun, it's a treat. There you go. It's your Halloween treat. You're going to put one of those long strips, 1 1/2 by 15 1/2 inch along the top. And then I'm going to just show you how this is laid out before we do anything. All right, here it is laid out. It doesn't really look that much like eyes yet, and it will when it comes together. But the first thing you're going to do is go ahead and sew the center section together. And how I'm going to do that is I would piece these, the half square triangles together first, and then just sew it across like that. So I'm going to do that really quickly. And my machine that I normally use is right in the middle of another project, and I didn't want to disturb it, so I'm using my an older machine that I always fall back on. Luckily, I kept it when I bought the new one, so I'm going to be using that one today. Alrighty, I've readjusted the camera, and now I'm going to use, and we're using a 1/4 inch seam throughout, and now I'm just going to sew together those half square triangles. Alrighty, so here they are. They sewed those two pieces together first, those two half square triangles, and we're just going to keep working, and they should match now. Hopefully, fingers crossed. There we go. And then I'm just going to start working my way across, and I'm going to sew this center section together. And then the last thing I do, of course, is sew these two together. But I'm going to go ahead and keep working on this. Alrighty, so my eyes are pressed. Now they're coming together. This fun little silly little Halloween project. Let me just trim those little strings off. And then we're just going to add the 2 strips on the top and the bottom. Take my glasses off so you don't see the shine. And then it'll be done. Like I said, it's just a fun little make. You can throw it on your coffee table or somewhere else, or put it on the wall. It's really fun, maybe for a kid's room or something like that. Although I don't know if like a young kid would like eyes looking at them at night, but maybe around Halloween it's okay. Anyway, so let me go ahead and finish this up, and then I'll show you how I quilt it. So here are my spooky eyes. I think this is just a lot of fun, and it's so easy. It's ridiculously easy. And now I'm just going to quilt it. I'll probably find some black thread. I probably am going to change that. I don't want the quilting to overshadow the eyes. I really want to highlight the eyes. And I'm not sure. I may just sort of quilt in the black spot, and that way those eyes pop. What I might do is maybe highlight the pupils here with the beige that's in my machine, and then what I'm going to go do is switch out my thread, and then I will finish quilting it. So what you're going to do to quilt it is you lay out your backing wrong side up, that great skeleton backing if you have that, and see how much bigger. I actually cut this a little too big, but you see how much bigger that is than the eyes. And then you're batting, and hopefully, I'm going to switch that around here. Let's see. I can get another scrap strip out of that, I'm sure. And luckily that's big enough too. There you go. I actually might cut this a little bit just so I don't have so much under my machine. Get my scissors out here. I'm just going to trim that so I don't lose that strip here. All right, there you go, another scrap. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and just sort of do these pupils first. It's nice because they're in the middle. And then what I'm going to do is switch out my thread in my machine, and I'll finish the rest. Okay, so now I've switched out my thread, so I have the black thread in there. I'm ready to go. I'm just trimming off these little threads here. Align the eyes first, and then go from there, and then I'll show you when it's done. All right. It is quilted, lots of little threads. What I did basically is I outlined the eyeballs, and then I just followed in black all around the eyes. That way they really pop. And now what I'm going to do is trim it down. I need to get a bigger ruler. I forgot to get that. And then I'm going to bind it. And like I said, I was lucky. I had this black binding. You could also use a different binding if you had purple or something, you know, another Halloween-y color if you wanted. I just thought, since I have it, why not? I'm using up my scraps. We're working our scraps off, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get my ruler because I forgot to get the big one. And then I'm going to bind it. And then this little project, this fun little eyeball wall hanging tabletop or incidental piece will be done. Got my bigger ruler, and now I'm just going to square this up, and it should measure about, it does get warped when it's, you know, when you quilt it. So I'm just going to do an initial cut, try to line up as best I can. Okay. Nice thing is that cuts away a lot of those strings that you have. And then I'm going to do the opposite side first. That'll help me get this a nice straight. This is one of those things, and a small piece like this, it's not a big deal, but on bigger quilts and things, I always have a problem squaring up quilts, and I need to improve on that because sometimes I go back and it's like, oh, that wasn't as square as I'd like it to be. And you really, especially those big quilts are the ones that you're going to hang, big wall hangings. You want to square those up so they hang nice and flat. But it's definitely something I need to work on. So that is about, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. So yep, we're right on the money. And then I'm just going to trim this up, lining up on the bottom. I need my glasses for this. The one thing about quilting with and sewing with black fabric, it's really hard to see sometimes. Let's see, we'll get that nice and even. Alrighty, so there you go. You're going to want to trim off any other strings that are still there, any other thread. Toss this, all these little pieces. There's some scraps in there that might be big enough. And then we're going to bind it. As in the past, I know everybody does different binding. I know some people that cut 4 different strips. I do one continuous binding. That's the way I do it. With a 2.5-inch strip, I fold it in half. I usually end up piecing a bunch of pieces together. And then what I'll do is I'll sew it on the front and then hand stitch it on the back. I love hand stitching binding. I know maybe that's old-fashioned, some people do, and there's beautiful machine binding and it would save so much time, but honestly it's really relaxing for me. I turn the TV on, and especially I like have my pile of quilts and I just love sitting there and hand stitching. I don't do a lot of hand stitching. I mentioned before my hand is not so great. So that to me is a pleasure. I used to love hand quilting too, but I can't really do that anymore. So the hand stitching is my best substitute for that. Ooh, spooky, spooky eyes. Here you go. It's all done, all finished. I just finished my binding. I'm loving the way this little thing turned out. It's just a little make. You can put it on your side table, on the wall, give it as a gift, as a Halloween treat. There you go. It's calorie free, which is something I need right now. Make it in any color combination. It's just a lot of fun. I like it on the black background. They sort of glow a little bit. So I'm going to see if in the evening if they actually do that. Fabric might glow a little bit because of the color. So thank you so much for stopping by today. This was episode number 8 of my Working Our Scraps Off series. It's a YouTube series only, although I usually have a blog post, or I do have, not usually, I always have a blog post that accompanies it, and usually that has like the cuts that you need, the fabric and that sort of thing. And if it's a bigger pattern, I actually attach a free PDF pattern as well that you can download. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I always love new subscribers, and it helps you keep up to date with my next Working Our Scraps Off project. I am on social media at Create with Claudia, where I post things daily. So check out all those things, and I really appreciate you stopping by. Have a great day.